Hello. We've got a little bit of music to play for you, because I was thinking you just finished lunch, you strolled across here, you had a long lunch because you could get here for 3 o'clock. So I thought a little bit of music, hopefully. There we go, there we go. Now, why have I chosen this little bit of music? As music lovers, who knows this song? Does anyone know this song? No, because no one here, well, very few of us are over the age of 40 in this room. That's probably why. So, this little song... Hold on, let's try that one. This little song... Come on. There we go. This little song is by Donald Byrd, called Change. But it's not because I want you all to dance and enjoy it. It's because of the lyrics. Read the lyrics. Change, things just rearrange. Change makes you want to hustle. Change, nothing stays the same. That is everything that I want to say today, but I have to drag it out for 15 more minutes. So, because these are the three elements in my mind that we're all facing in our organisations. So, thank you. So that's change. Donald Byrd. Change makes you want to hustle. But I want to start with the third piece there, which was nothing stays the same. Nothing stays the same. There is so much change at a technological level, at a personal level, at an environmental level. There is so much change around us. So who's very comfortable and aware of Moore's Law and all that business and processing doubling into every 2 years and all that business, right? That's all very lovely, and that's why we got so much stuff and technology around us, and it's getting better and quicker and faster and more amazing every single day. But this little purple line, there's nothing technical about that line, it's just me sticking it on there because I wanted to make a point. Now, this point is us, individuals, people, and how we are coping with all of this change. And the reality is, we're not doing badly as individuals. We're sort of keeping up to a degree, but there are times where so much technological development is somewhat ahead of us, and we're sort of always catching up. Earlier today, a few of us were having a debate about updating Apple's iPhone to the next OS. What happens next, whether it slows down, whether it wastes our memory and all that kind of nonsense. We're always wondering, do we go forward or do we stay where we are? Do we go forward a big step or just take a little step into the future? It's all quite complicated. But for me, the real disruption is this line. And this line is my very hugely analytical piece of work here, which is just me drawing a green line. And this one says organisations. Because organisations, us big and small and medium-sized organisations, are struggling to keep up with technological change. But for me, the most important thing is how we are competing with, dealing with the fact that individuals, consumers, users, people, buyers, shoppers, these people seem to be far more comfortable with tech change than organisations are. They're more comfortable because they can adapt much quicker, they can find a way through it much quicker. Ultimately, so many organisations are struggling with change. Do you sit in an organisation that you feel seems to be going a lot slower than you wish it would? Hands up. Not many. Who feels that your organisation is zipping along, is very comfortable with change? Funny how Andrew was, yes, we're brilliant, we're well ahead of the game. So who didn't put their hands up? Because there's quite a few of you. I want to know why. So who didn't put your hands up? Why didn't you put your hand? What was? I'm interested to know what the middle ground was.
I work for the BBC, so because the way the licence fee works, we're actually like good at adapting to change because we're obliged to do so. But we're somewhere in the middle.
Okay, someone just sighed over here. But there is this challenge in terms of there are many organisations. I was talking to Alex just earlier, and it's something that we're all faced with. We meet clients, we meet other agencies, we meet content owners. If only we could move a little bit faster. It is a big challenge. So that's one issue, organisational change. How can we instigate change in organisations quicker than we presently are doing? The other thing is knowledge, because the other thing is, how do I cope? There's so much new stuff coming our way. There's so much more information. There's new apps, there's new tech, there's new blogs, there's new feeds, there's so much stuff. There's a number of surveys about marketeers, but there's one recent one, 48% of marketeers said they really are out of their depth and they just don't know anywhere near enough about digital as they wish they could do. So there's 48% are owning up to it. You know and I know that sometimes it's difficult for us to own up in a survey to say, yeah, you know what, I don't know. So you sort of fudge it a bit. I'm not doing so badly. It's all right. So just assume that 48% is actually on the low side. You're looking at the majority of marketeers are feeling uncomfortable with the world around them, with the digital world around them. And it's not just those guys. Agencies, media content owners are all trying to fill that void, but also at the same time, we're all struggling, aren't we? Does everyone feel that it's sort of trying to keep up with what's new and fresh and change is difficult, or have you found the solution? You have a teenage daughter. That was very well planned 14, 15 years ago, wasn't it? So, that's very, very good organisation. Very, very good organisation. But it's tough. Would you agree? You nodded. You nodded. It's really tough. It's really, really tough. So this is one of the key challenges. So what do we do in this industry to try and deal with this flood of stuff and trying to keep our heads above water? Well, one of the things that we do quite often is act like magpies. We love shiny things. We love new things. We love... someone's smiling over there, so I've hit a point. Because ultimately, we as an industry, we like to chase what's new, what's fresh, what's cool, what's funky, all that kind of stuff. Second Life, remember that one? Yeah, Second Life. I remember Adidas had a shop in Second Life. That was good. The thing is that we're so drawn to what's new and fresh without thinking through the business implications, without thinking through what is possible. I am not some Luddite who says, don't go for anything new, we should all stay where we are. That's not what I'm saying. But there is that sense in the marketing industry that we're somewhat enamoured and attracted by shiny stuff. So I think that one of the challenges we face is being these magpies. We have to deal with it. We have to try and hold ourselves back. Now this comes to three little elements of hurdles that I'm seeing in many organisations. What's holding us back? There are three, and this is about this rearrangement. This is a change things just rearrange. How are we internally trying to deal with all of this change? What is holding us back? First one, structure. Structural hurdles in organisations. Anyone French in the room? Okay. Ça va? So, Colbert, a great hero of France, every single book that my son brings back from the lycée, see, he's half French, Colbert and the greatness of Colbert and all the institutional structure that he put in place into France. But I blame him. It's all his fault because he introduced the world of bureaucracy to the world. He introduced great structures into France that made it tick as a nation, but at the same time, he's left this wonderful legacy of creating hierarchy after hierarchy after hierarchy in organisations. So I blame him. But I also blame this as well. I don't have mine on. The badge. Guaranteed at every conference, what do we do when we see someone with a badge? What do? We read it, don't we? How often do we look at someone, but instead of look at Charlie in the eyes, we go straight to the badge and check out who he is, what his title is, what company he's from, and check all that out before you look at the person in the eyes. True? It's so true. And this is another hurdle that what we're doing, we're defining the world around us, we're defining organisations, we're defining what could be possible around us by the title, not by the person. I used to work at Lear Burnett's a long time ago. And at Lear Burnett's in Chicago, I don't know if you remember this, Liz, right? But in Chicago, there was a vice president, I think, of photocopying, I think was the title. Now, these were the days of paper copies, and you had to print out 100 copies for the client at a pitch. So it was a huge amount of work, and there was a big team doing it. I'm not negating the role of the job. But when we get to a scenario that everyone is searching for the right title, and honestly, we've all done it, we're all searching for the right title to frame how we're defined and seen by others. Surely we're going down the wrong path. What we should be looking at is just having brilliant people in the room coming up with brilliant ideas, fusing together, collaborating and doing some great stuff. So there is one of these hurdles that we hold ourselves back is structure. And sometimes many companies put in too much structural importance and not focus on the individuals in the company. My point of view. The second one is rational. We're all dealing with short-term rational issues like P&Ls, our numbers for the end of the week, end of the month, end of the quarter. It's all the pressure from above is, yeah, we want you to be strategic and innovative and curious and think out of the box and all that kind of stuff. Oh, and by the way, can you deliver your numbers by the end of the week? And the pressure to deliver on the short term is somewhat holding us back to actually free our minds up to start to think of what could help the business on the long term. So this is a second hurdle. The third one is just we as people. There's an emotional hurdle as well. There is our own insecurity about change, and there's this chief exec of an insurance company. He refuses to use social platforms that can be used internally with his employees. Why? Because his daughter always uses Facebook and she doesn't talk to him anymore. Outcome, I don't want anything to do with that stuff. So his emotional issues are defining good business rationale. So he's stopping the company from utilizing stuff purely because his daughter's on Facebook all the time. I'm not saying he's an idiot. My issue is that sometimes there's an emotional barriers that we have to come across, get over. So there's another one that I like to talk about, which is the law of least effort. We are, as human beings, would rather do as little as possible to get a result than put a huge amount of effort in. And it's called the law of least effort. And that's another one of these hurdles that we're always trying to have to come across. So, they're all of the biases, but there's hope. There's hope. There's two types of change in my book. There's little incremental change. These guys, the British cycling team, were geniuses at looking at incremental change. Little bits of change. The pants, the breathing, the wheels, according to the French Olympic teams, were too round, if you remember that one. These guys were absolutely brilliant. And I had a wonderful chat, an accidental chat, sitting next to one of the guys from the British cycling team who was behind all of this. It was the most fascinating plane journey I've ever had in my life. So what they did in terms of making lots and lots of little changes for the bigger whole was a phenomenal learning for many businesses and many individuals, I think, for our industry. But then you got at the other end, the big incremental disruptive change where you see all of those case studies at various conferences and various other places. Big change. You're wondering, who on earth is this guy with a crown on his head? Anyone know? This is King Tubby. And if you like your reggae, he's one of the great geniuses of that music, but he's also a great genius in terms of what he brought to electronics within music. And he's one of the great pioneers that has influenced electronic music, dance music, drum and bass, grime, wherever it is. This man, back in the late 60s and early 70s, is one of the great pioneers. He had nothing. He was using such little bits of electronics that were sitting around to create the most amazing sounds and soundscapes. So he's one of the great, great pioneers. There's lots of brands that we could talk about who've switched. We have Andrew coming up later. I'm sure we'd like to talk about IBM's shift. But for me, this is a great example of an individual who can make a difference. And that's really what I want to explore now in the last few slides. We're doing all right, aren't we? And that is, how can we, individually, every single one of us, make a bit of a difference where we work and how we deal with the world around us. So that's what I want to just finish off here. I'm not going to talk about big companies and how big companies can change, because ultimately companies are going to change because of all of us in this room and how we can help make a little bit of difference, how we can make a little bit of influence. And I'm sure you've all got amazing examples of how you or someone you've worked with have made a bit of difference in your own, in your workplace. But for me, it all starts with curiosity. As Paddy said earlier, I go on and on and on about this word, because for me, we can have the most amazing ideas, we can have the most brilliant innovation coming through into a company, but if an individual doesn't have a curious mind, if a company, an organisation, isn't a curious organisation, nothing will happen. We have to open up ourselves to be open to great ideas and great innovation. So curiosity is the starting point. But there are a few little pieces around that I think I'd just quickly like to highlight, is environment. Where do ideas come from? What kind of environment are we sitting in order for ideas that are going to help to change our own organisation and other organisations happen? Where are they going to come from? I did a survey of about 150 people on Twitter and various other places, and they all came back with where they get their inspiration from. One of the most popular ones was right here. The other popular one was just before we go to sleep. Another one was when we go running and we get in the fresh air. Ultimately, it's when our mind shuts down and we're allowed to think and breathe, when our mind is relaxed. There's lots of other examples, and I'm sure you've all got examples, which I'd love to hear about, by the way. But the bath or the shower is a very popular one. Now, I'm not suggesting you all get into a bath with your colleagues to do a brainstorm, but there are still to this day, it's a depressing scenario that still to this day, we have a situation that many companies lock ourselves away into a darkened room, put a whiteboard up with a couple of markers and go, we're going to brainstorm brilliant ideas for the next 3 years for our client's business in an hour. Our brain doesn't work that way. And there's still so much opportunity to free ourselves up to help to affect change in our organisation. So that's one start, is the environment. The other one is belief in your idea. Dyson went through 5,126 prototypes before we got to the final thing. I mean, that's commitment. There is a desire. If you've got something amazing you think is important into your company to make a small change or a big change, keep pushing, keep believing in it, keep pushing forward, don't take the knocks back. If someone says it's not possible, keep pushing forward. It's so important to have belief in your own views, your own ideas. The other one is to find a friend. Just like Sony PlayStation, when the guy who came up with PlayStation, it wasn't just him with the great idea of PlayStation. There was a guy who worked at Sony with him who was the great instigator of making that happen in the company. There's a good book from Gary Hamill many years ago who wrote about this chapter. He wrote another chapter about Enron, but we can skip that one. But it's a really good, I really recommend if you find the book, and I can tell you about it afterwards, but that is a chapter that's well worth reading about how to find a friend in your company, to effect change in your company, to push it in the way that you personally believe it should go. Find a friend. The other one is, see, Bloomberg pencils, right on brand. The other one is collaboration. It's pretty straightforward. There was a company that I worked with, and we were working on how to get better brand consumer engagement going, you know, the usual kind of brief. The only slight problem, everything that we worked on hit a dead end because they had someone in the company called the VP of Innovation, and the Vice President of Innovation said, I do innovation, no one else does. It's my job. So everything stopped because he could sign off on it, and he wasn't going to sign off on it because he's the innovation guy, no one else is. So that's a bit depressing, but collaboration with smart people is such a powerful tool, and we've got to do a lot more of it. And finally, just as Donald Byrd sang about, it makes you want to hustle. We just got to go and do it. Don't let people stop you from going ahead and doing things. You've got a brilliant idea, keep going. I had an idea when I was at Levi Strauss. It took me 2 years to make it happen. 2 years. Bloody nightmare. But you get there. If you really believe in it and you want to hustle, you go out and hustle. The best thing to do is not pontificate and think about it and do pretty charts and wonder about it and write a piece about it. You go and do it and go and hustle. So that, for me, is a summary of where I think organisational change can come from. Not at the top, but it's everyone in the company can all make their own difference at a very granular level, at a big level. As long as you have great belief in yourself, you find friends, and you go and hustle. I'm going to leave it there because now I think we're going to see a few hustlers on the stage who are going to talk about the great area of content. So thank you very much. And we're good.